Vandetam Shubhadam Adeka Sharanam Nasisaram Śrīdharam Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Tidito Gauriya Gurvanvaye Bhata Bhanuriva Prabhat Gagane Yo Gaura Sankirtanay Mayavadati Mingilo Daragatan Udritta Jivaniman Krishna Prem Sudapti Gahana Sukham Pradata Prabhum Tam Bhaje Namo Gaura Kishoraya Bhaktavadhuta Murtaye Gaurangra Padma Bhrangaya Radha Bhav Nishevane Vande Bhakti Vinodam Shri Gaura Shakti Surupakam Bhakti Shastragya Samrajam Radha Rasa Sudhanadim Gaura Vrajashita Sheshaira Vaishnavaira Vanda Vigraham Jagannatha Prabhum Vande Premabdham Vidya Vaishnavam Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhaivacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sashtang Dandat Pranam to all the exalted Vaishnavas, devotees, servitors, serving at the lotus feet of Param Guru Maharaj and Gurudev worldwide at Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, to our friends, well-wishers, and to sincere seekers, our obeisances, and welcome to our Friday evening reading and discussion Sangha. I have our panelists on and guests. Let me bring them on. Dandat Pranam and welcome our Shripad Arun Krishna Prabhu.
Dandat Prabhu.
Dandat Pranam and welcome Shripad Chinmadev Prabhu.
Dandavat.
And Dandat Pranam Shripad Rupanuga Prabhu. Welcome. And if I'm not wrong, Shripad Rupanuga Prabhu is joining us all the way from Australia. Is that right? Okay. So we will continue our reading and any discussion that may be subservient to the reading. The reading is from the Golden Staircase by Om Vishnupad Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Dev-Goswamī Maharāj. This is a publication, and we will be beginning chapter 4. Should I begin? Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Chapter 4 reads, Test, Taste, and Triumph. This is Param Guru Maharaj. According to one's sukriti and inner adaptability and grace from above, the soul within will experience awakenment, emerge with some taste, and according to that taste, he will adjust himself with the environment. According to his internal taste, he'll find these friends, this type of service, this company, these seem to be my own. This is tasteful, very, very tasteful. According to his taste, he will take some particular type of food. Just as when animals are let loose, they will take food according to their own choice. So the awakened soul will be able to select a proper environment for himself. His inner taste will guide him. This is very charming. This is attracting my heart. I feel helpless. I can't control myself. So much attraction do I feel for this particular thing. In that way, he will be guided. Intuition will direct him. In this world, we find intuition. And in the plane of divine life also there is intuition. The undiscovered tendency in the self. And that will perform the function of selection, elimination, and new acceptance. As we go on with our sadhana, with the process of realization, elimination and new selection will come gradually. Gradually, it will take us up. A quick pause here. This just appears to be one paragraph, but Param Guru Maharaj has given us a lot in just this one paragraph. Okay. Do you notice how he starts comparing at this level? This is very high. And then I'll say something, and then I'll have, Arun Prabhu and Chinmay Prabhu and anyone else who wants to chime in. This is really high in terms of the development, the evolutionary development of the individual consciousness is concerned. And this is like in a direction. It's not just a regular evolution like from one species to the other. So this is targeted evolution. And at this level of evolution, Guru Maharaj again starts to compare with lower animals and other species. Do you notice that? And then he's talking about intuition. So intuition, then he says that we find it in this world, but we already know that it has to exist in reality, otherwise it won't be reflected here. So we could understand that by inference, by logic. But intuition, if you really see, is best explained as direct cognition. So it is not collection of information, data analysis, knowledge creation. All that process is like this is an override of the process, the set process of the material way of gathering or making knowledge out of data points, information, inputs, so forth. So this direct cognition is intuition, at the level of intuition. Now, intuition, when we reach this stage, as Guru Maharaj is saying, direct cognition also means, you could say, pure knowledge. So this is another level of knowledge which is pure and direct, that the sadhaka is at. What he's explaining at that level, where he will start finding taste to be his guide. Now I want to, what came to me was, when someone is at this level, and of course he says gradually, so obviously first, there'll be first step, second step, and then at some stage, the sadhaka, we will be somewhat established in this intuitive new paradigm of interaction with the environment. So if we look at Shastra, at what point, when we've studied, when we've looked at the evolution, at what point will we start in our progressive life, when we will start to, you can say, not give too much weightage to the regular process of knowledge, is when we're settled at the stage that Guru Maharaj is explaining of this intuitive process. So if you look at the Shastra, is there any place where something like this is hinted at, where we can kind of correlate this? Okay, at this point, what Param Guru Maharaj is explaining, this is somewhat near in the Shastra. If you remember, it's a verse. Now I'll tell you. Jnane prayasam udapas. Now, does that make some more sense? Jnane prayasam udapasya namanteva jivanta sarmukaritam bhavadiya vartam. At what point will one consider the generic, materialistic way of acquiring knowledge in a much higher, refined way? We may call it jnana, leading to liberation, as hateful. And this is the level. Where we have progressed to this new paradigm. And it's so wonderful. Now we're developing some taste. And naturally, if someone presents us with an alternative, lower taste, then what will be our first reaction? Naturally, will be of a bit of disgust. Jnane prayasam udapas. No need for that. Now, does that make more sense? Mm-hmm. At what stage will the acquisition of knowledge, which is considered so high in civilized human society and even religious circles, would that be hatefully given up just when you acquire taste for this new paradigm of this higher cognitive, pure flow of knowledge? This by intuition. Some automation is there. Now Jnana Shunya Bhakti will make more sense. Jnana Shunya, by what you consider Jnana in the lower sense, is not required. Jnana Shunya. That's how it is developing. Does that make sense? Does that sound appealing to you?
Yes, Prabhu, very much.
Anything you want to add?
Prabhuji, I was trying to understand the deeper meaning and connection between Chetana and intuition. They seem to be very strongly interlinked.
Mm-hmm. It is, if you remember that we had the 5 attributes of Chetana, or consciousness. One of them is cognition. So the more cognition develops, and the deeper that you connect with the real self, the more apparent it will become, and it will tend to overshadow the superficial paraphernalia through which the material knowledge gathering is happening. So this is beyond paroksh level of gyan. This intuition is targeted. So that's the beauty. And this is, of course, not general, not like in a general sense. This is like a specific vector towards the center. And Anil ji, Dandot Pranam, Namaskar, welcome.
Rakṣhak.
Bahari Upyog Karta. Abhinandan hai, Bahari Upyog Karta. That's on your title. I just read that in Dev-Nagari. Bahari Upyog Karta.
No, there are some, as I told earlier also, right, there are many softwares on my machine which is multilingual, right? So
and then they're translating it as guest. Guest is Atithi. Guest is Atithi.
External user.
Yeah, but then they should say external user, but they're saying guest. Guest does not equate with Bahari Upyog Karta.
No, it is external users, right? So basically,
guest is as special, very special in Vedic culture. Atithi Devo Bhava. Not Bahari Upyog Karta Devo Bhava. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Those who are joining with the link, right, not getting that invitation directly on their account ID, that's why it is Bahari Upyog Karta, because I can see the same title for Chinmay there as well as Arun sir.
Oh yeah, no. I was just saying because you're always welcome as Atithi or Upyog Karta or however, doesn't matter. So, but the intuition. There may be other terms, but in Devanagari, it's one of the words very close to the implied meaning here is nidhyan. Nidhyan. Which has the connotation of deep meditation. Dhyan is like deep meditation, dhyan. Dharana, dhyan, samadhi. So if you look at the Ashtanga yoga process, dhyan is like the before samadhi, like almost complete absorption. That's dhyan. So nidhyan. That's intuition. There may be other words, but I just gave an example. So taste cannot arise. So this intuition, taste, all these things, and then this hateful rejection for the external processes of knowledge gathering, material knowledge, or even knowledge of the self devoid of any focus. Just studying consciousness, but for what? We are studying subjectivity so that we consider us as the ultimate, as the observer as the ultimate. That is not okay. That is not recommended. We have to be tattva jnana artha darshanam. What is that for? Tattva jnana artha. What is the artha? Param Brahma. Krishna. If we lose that focus, then even studying consciousness is of no consequence. It just constitutes jnana, and jnana, even that is hatefully rejected at a stage. Udapasya. Should we go on, Prabhu? Okay. Back to Param Guru Maharaj. Gradually it will take us up. Why have all of you from the Western countries come to Krishna consciousness? You were students of Christianity mostly. So why has Krishna consciousness attracted your soul, your inner heart? You had some sort of religious conception, but why did you leave that? Leaving so many traditional formalities and so many friends within that circle. Why have you left them to bring yourself here in Krishna consciousness? For what have you come taking such risk? The country, the society, the religious conception, you have left them all and come forward for Krishna consciousness. And moreover, as active preachers, that tendency will again push you into the selection of different departments of service in Krishna consciousness. Special benediction coming from Param Guru Maharaj to our Western God brothers and God sisters. Back to Param Guru Maharaj. Our inner tendency, inner liking or hankering will guide us. This particular sort of service is very pleasing to me. I cannot but associate myself with this sort of service. That will be the guide. Cooperation with the Chaitya Guru, the Guru inside, the dictator within. I want to pause here just one quick second. Anilji, do you know any word closest that you can think of to dictator in Devanagari? Dictator.
So the typical word is, which is the first translation, is Tanashah, right? But that is not the Devanagari, it is Urdu actually.
Yeah.
But so dictator is something. What is that? It's Swambhu. No, Swambhu is also not correct word for dictator, right?
No,
So,
Swambhu is different. I'll tell you.
yeah.
And then you think on that. That word is one of the words that closest is dictator means dictator is Adhinayak.
Adhinayak. Oh, Nayak is leader and Adhinayak is
Dictator.
leader, right?
Janaganaman Adhinayak.
What is the direction there?
Okay. The Guru, back to Param Guru Maharaj. The Guru is outside and inside. When we cannot catch the dictation of the inner dictator Guru, then we must have some guidance from the Mahanta Guru, outside and from scripture. We always want guidance along the path. And when we reach a certain stage, from there our ruchi may guide us. Our inner dictating tendency may guide us into intuition. Just as birds and beasts are guided by intuition. So again, here Guru Maharaj is comparing that intuitive function with lower species. So if you notice, there are so many examples exist, but birds, there are these birds that migrate at a certain start of a season or a certain instance, and collectively they all just in unison start to behave that way. As if this is an intelligent, collective, community decision. But they do it intuitively. So many other things related to that. I don't know, Arun Prabhu, but when I was growing up in India, and just before the rainy season, or we didn't know at that time when the rains are going to come. So at certain point, then I would see like ants, the chintia ants, they would just surface up and they would be in such a rush, and all of them together would be just rushing with food stuff and little things in their mouth. And I used to grab my grandmom and say, "Mom, Grandma, look at this. Dadima, look at this." And she's like, do you know what that means? And sun used to be shining bright, and she's like, rains are on the way. So by seeing the activity of the such lower species, insects, she could ascertain, and she could predict that rains are on the way. Well, that's the human being, but what about how does that insect know? Intuition. Collectively, they will start behaving in a certain fashion.
Probably I've also noticed in Bharatvarsh that the birds, by their own intuition, they know this person is going to be dangerous for me, or this person is not a threat to me at all. So same house, same garden, some people who have some tendency, the birds will stay away and the calves will stay away. Yet when some other more evolved person comes in, and especially one who has no expression of violence to other living entities, those birds will come very, very close. And one would find it, well, gee, what happened? How did this bird with the puny brain has intuition, knowing that there is no danger to safety with this person versus another person? And that's for birds, and then similar thing is also applicable for mammals also, I have seen. And the only explainable reason is there is some other faculty other than knowledge and other than sense and physical experience that they know, and they're guided by it.
Yes. Any other examples? Namaskar, Ramananda ji.
Dandas everybody. Dandas Jairam Prabhuji.
Any other example, Anil ji or Chinmay Prabhu? You can
Another
think
example that we know of is like the example we have seen earlier. Some fishes like salmon.
Yeah.
They are very, very tiny when they are born, and they swim downstream. And after spending so many years, they still know where to go back so that the species can continue to thrive. What can we say?
Yeah, that is
Finding
true.
their way in navigating through streams and so on. So many possibilities. It's hard. It's hard, in my view, to statistically say this is how they materially navigate. No.
Yes, Anilji, please.
Yes, they are more, they don't have mind and connect. They have.
It's hard to hear
Anil-
you, Prabhu.
अब तो बिल्कुल ही चली गई आवाज. There's no sound.
Okay, just one.
Yeah, go ahead. Rupanuga Prabhu, how about you? Australia, there's a lot of wildlife and birds and different kinds of species. Do you seem to notice things that they do that are kind of intuitive and noticeable?
I certainly do, and I hear all of the time, especially when people have passed, transitioned, or that birds in particular seem to come and do strange things as if the deceased is talking to them. That's what I notice. And I've had very good friends tell me of that. But that's the main thing that I've observed from the birds. Yeah. Like, for instance, my partner at the time, her father had died and she was grieving, and we were driving back from Sydney, and she saw a black swan, which are nowhere in our region. And she said, gee, I wish I could get a black swan for home. And she always wanted to buy white swans. We lived on a river, but they were $20,000 a pair and they might fly away. Do you know, when we got home, a black swan was floating on the river, never been in that area before, and hung around for a few days and then disappeared, and we never saw it again. You know, that sort of observation. So that was one straight to my heart, but I've heard of other people say the same.
Yeah.
Always with bird life, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anilji, please.
Sorry for that voice issue, but now is it clear?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so the only thing which I was trying to make was that maybe those creatures, right, which we think that they are of a lower status, they are more close to that divine ultimate thing, right, and that's why they are being guided by that sense, right? Or maybe the human beings just got that intellect and mind, and let it be on, right? You figure it out, but there is no further guidance, right?
The idea being that even in the lower species, it's consciousness expressing itself. So that cognition part, that attribute is actually visible and it's noticeable to us. If we're sensitive enough, then we're able to see it, perceive it empirically. In us, because of our senses, our mind, our intelligence that has been given to us, we misuse it and create noise between that level of intuition, from a pure level of consciousness, and we start behaving artificially, and we call it civilization.
Yes, sir.
So actually, real education is to extract what is there versus to stuff in something new. That is the old Vedic sense, is to extract. So actually all the learning reaches a point, as we're Param Guru Maharaj is telling us, it reaches a point of saturation where this quest is so saturated, and one is actually at the level of this intuitive, pure knowledge exchange, that any lower kind of knowledge gathering appears to us as distasteful. And then at that time, taste is what is guiding us. Of course, this level of spiritual or conscious evolution has no bearing on the level of consciousness of salmon or ants or any other species, because this level is vectored towards the center. Those at their level are going through a natural evolutionary process to come to the level of human beings where there's a quantum jump. But consciousness in of itself is revealing itself. So we can see and we can perceive and take note and learn. That is the idea, whole idea. So not to say that they're also in the quest, they have come to the stage of ruchi, which is not true, but we have. Or I'm saying we have as given in the example by Guru Maharaj. I'm probably at the stage of the salmon, but coming to that stage, then I will be guided by taste and slowly adapt to this new paradigm of knowledge exchange, of pure knowledge, intuition. And this external process I will reject. So any movement therein on that region will affect me. And then, what is that? Chidvilas. Then we will be able to slowly, and this is a gradual process. It's not like, okay, just one fine morning, I'm totally in taste and I'm totally awakened to this new intuition thing. It's a gradual process. Does that help, Anilji?
Yes, sir.
So the example is given, the reason why it's given is there is this faculty, there is this attribute that we ignore. It's undiscovered. He uses the word undiscovered. And no one wants to study it because it's materially unscientific. Why? Because it's an attribute of consciousness. The moment you study it deeply, you will have to accept there is some such thing, and then the moment you do, there you go. Now you're theistic. So that's why it is kept aside. Therefore, knowledge, external knowledge, for most part, is not very helpful. All it does is it disconnects us from our real self. We become so dependent on the external processes that even if some intuition is there, we ignore it. So Chaitya Guru and these internal functions, then they're totally ignored, to the extent that it's considered noise and so like that.
Jairam Prabhu, may I say something?
Sure. How much time will you take?
Just 30 seconds.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I heard Param Guru Maharaj say that Sukriti is pushing in the background. I've seen over the years so many devotees, sannyasis come and go. But I didn't know somehow Krishna sucked me in Guru Maharaj, and I seen, so of course there is this process of purification, anartha nivritti, all that. Then we go to ruchi, nishtha, then ruchi. And that's why sadhu sangha is more important. And Sukriti is pushing in the background. Yeah. Param Guru Maharaj makes so easy, bird of feather flock together.
Okay, excellent. Excellent, Ramananda Prabhu. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. Good job.
Thank you.
So we go to the next. This is by Param Guru Maharaj again. It says, our inner tendency, inner liking or hankering will guide us. This particular sort of service is very pleasing to me. I cannot but associate myself with this sort of service. That will be the guide. Cooperation with the Chaitya Guru, the Guru inside, the dictator within. The Guru is inside and is outside and inside. When we cannot catch the dictation of the inner dictator Guru, then we must have some guidance from the Mahanta Guru outside and from scripture. We always want guidance along the path, and when we reach a certain stage, from there our ruchi may guide us. Our inner dictating tendency may guide us like intuition, just as birds and beasts are guided by intuition. Next section reads, weeds curtailing the bhakti creeper. Now, this section deals with the unwanted things that grow with the bhakti creeper. Anyone who does a little bit of gardening knows you put a seed in and then it sprouts and there's so many other things that are unwanted that grow with it. So, how to deal with the unwanted devotee. Then, Maharaj, in this connection, why is it that there are so many practitioners of Krishna consciousness who, for whatever reasons, have given up their previous devotional association? Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj. From a general perspective, the life of wholesale dedication is not a very easy thing to swallow. So many difficulties are in the way. Previous tendencies, and also the possibility of offenses in the choice of thought, speech, and behavior due to our free will. The defect is there. It is not a perfect thing. Our free will is very weak and limited. Sadhana means elimination and new acceptance. And within that also so many difficulties and disturbances may come from our past tendencies, which do not allow us to progress smoothly. Though I know that what I see is a higher form of service, my previous tendencies won't allow me to accept that and to undergo the austerities and challenges that are necessary for that service. There are so many difficulties, like weeds. This is described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So when he says, just to pause here, when Guru Maharaj says tendencies, what is that? That means one word is swabhav. Our prakritik swabhav is such that it won't let us. We can see that this is good. We can see there's this higher service. But because of our propensities and tendencies, our swabhav, we will not be. We will continue to do nonsense or stay in that lower section. Back to Param Guru Maharaj, he says, this is described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Brahmanda Brahmite Kun Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Vij Kintu Yadi Latara Sange Uthe Upashakha Bhukti Mukti Vancha Yata Asankhyatar Lekha Nisaddhachar Kutinati Jeev Hinsana Labha Puja Pratishtadi Yata Upashakha Gana Shekajala Pana Upashakha Badi Ay Stabdhana Mula Shakha Badi Tena Pai. Madhya-lila, chapter 19, verse 151, and then 158, I guess, 160. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down into the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets the opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. Unwanted weeds growing with the bhakti creeper are forbidden acts, violence, duplicity, mundane profiteering, adoration and popularity, etc. All these are weeds. If one does not distinguish between Bhakti Lata creeper and the weeds, then the sprinkling of water in the form of devotional practices such as hearing, chanting, etc. is misused. Because the weeds are nourished while the Bhakti Lata creeper is curtailed. The creeper of devotion becomes a sprout and gradually grows. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, here that along with the main creeper of devotion, there are also many weeds, and when the creeper receives watering and nourishing, those weeds also grow up as well. Labh means gain, the apparent gain of something, mainly position. But that position and puja, appreciation, which the sadhaka receives, may then create so many other enemies within him. From the previous tendencies, new enemies come. Maybe the desire to accumulate money for self-interested purposes, or the desire to get the love of women. And then there is hankering for pratishtha, fame and popularity. So many things may come. When one is going up, so many difficulties come on the way to check him. But we must consciously shun those things. So many difficulties come on the way, but we must save ourselves from all of the many internal enemies. To our aspiration with the help of Guru, Sadhu, Scripture and our own sincerity, then gradually we shall grow. At each new stage that we advance to, there also we shall find some other difficulty. So the path of inner evolution is not strewn with roses. It is a difficult path to walk. As we get nearer to the goal, we become more and more free. But in the beginning, various difficulties do come to check us. Our previous karma-phal, fruits of our previous actions, will return to be tasted by us. And tendencies of different types will chase us to try to keep us within their jurisdiction. But upon meeting those difficulties and surpassing them, conquering them, we shall progress higher and higher, and the difficulties will lessen. Still, something may remain, especially pratishtha. So pause here. All these different weeds Guru Maharaj is talking about. He is giving special emphasis on the pratishtha part. That can be a major problem, even in the advanced stages, till the advanced stages. So we have to be extremely careful of that. And then he's saying, as one progresses more and more, closer to the goal, then freer. But different various stages leading to that, we have to be careful. Anything anyone wants to say? The panel, Chinmoy Prabhu, Arun Prabhu.
Guru Maharaj's teachings are extremely valuable, and we are only fortunate that we have this Sangha. That's all I can say, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I am very blessed to have your association. So what can be said? Rupanuga Prabhu, would you like to say something? Or should we read on?
Process check on read on.
Okay.
Read on.
All right. All right. Yeah. Well, it's yeah. What would we do without you, Prabhu? I would just keep going. Chinmoy Prabhu he just laughs. He just laughs at me. He doesn't.
I was trying to think of the word that you use, process check. That's right.
You could just say, Jairam, stop it. That's good. Yeah, just that. Yeah, like that.
I'll say
Okay.
one thing though too, because I think Guru Maharaj is talking when he's talking about intuition, ruchi. He's differentiating between two different ruchis. Like there's ruchi, the animals we have, which is based on the mind, intelligence, the senses, and then when you get to that level where you develop in your spiritual progress, faith, sadhu sangha, you get to the level of nishti, firm conviction, and then you get to ruchi, actual taste, transcendental taste, which is coming from above. That's a completely different thing. And then when you get that, then your spiritual life is secured. I mean, I personally can say I'm not at that level, progressing to that level, but when you actually get that taste, that intuition, then there's nothing else that can attract you. Like that type of lower, that gyan that we were talking about, that's discounted because this ruchi is of higher value. The ruchi of the material world, of the mind, of the senses and intelligence, maybe gyan has some power over that, but ruchi of that transcendental nature is above the gyan of this world.
Ruchi is not intuition, so if
Right.
you inferred that from me, I just like to clarify for myself that there are two different attributes. Intuition is more acting and receiving, and ruchi is a stage, a particular stage in the development of devotional practice.
Right, but you can see Guru Maharaj in the beginning, he was making that comparison that animals, given their choice, they will go to what is tasteful. You know, and we also have that tendency. We go towards taste. But that lower taste is not really what we're looking for.
See, that's another thing, is that with that comparison, our ability to actually hear and understand our real taste, we have willfully nearly destroyed by listening to our mind, by listening to our senses, by being prey to these external attributes and the external environment illusion that we're in. Whereas these animals, they're more attuned to that original taste, where they just simply follow taste. They don't have that developed sensual analysis paraphernalia that we're blessed with, or supposedly we're blessed with. But we're blessed with that to amend our ways and find a way out of this miserable situation. But we're actually furthering the cause of Maya Devi by misusing it and losing all taste of the real type. All of these tastes that we have are acquired. They're not our natural tastes. So getting to ruchi is actually doing away with all the anarthas, doing away with the various external factors that is causing this dissonance. Well, otherwise, why would, when Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Surupa hai Krishnera Nityadas, Surup means what? Surup means your original, constitutional design is to serve Krishna. No, the bird doesn't know that. We originally don't know it either, but we can understand this. The bird can't. The bird can't develop ruchi for listening. That's another thing. Mahaprabhu is going through Jarikhanda forest, and that's completely different, and then all animals are chanting. That's total exception, but in the common natural process, they have to come to the level of at least being human, then they're able to inquire or look into this. Like we can look at the lower species and then infer by observation that look, how are they behaving? What are they doing? Then we can understand, well, how are they making these conscious decisions? Where is this coming from? And then, okay, then there must be something, that element in us. Okay, so we're also of the same type, the same conscious unit. Then develop the taste. And then further develop, as you're saying, then propelled by our natural tendencies, by our natural propensities, then in one particular way, one service type will attract us. One way of exchange, one taste will attract us. So taste becomes prime as one comes up to that level of just attraction and increased interest. At that stage, then sadhana is not bound by like these obligations. You see, now there is a pull that has started from the other side. So there's this magnet, there's a piece of iron, it's being moved mechanically closer, 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 and at one point it starts to move by itself. That point has been reached. So now there's no looking back, unless it's some leela of some sort. Again, that's an exception. There may be exceptional cases, but I'm talking regular process. And after that point, then it's smooth. So you follow intuition, you develop on that, and then you will find that this is the closest. Then you don't like the other kind of knowledge that is being forced on me. But yeah. So anyway, ruchi is more like interest and an actual pull to this, to your target, to the object of worship, or and intuition is actually rather a result of that development. I don't know if I'm making it any clear, but I'm just saying it for myself. That is what intuition is. Intuition, you discover. Ruchi, you develop. Does that make sense? Ruchi, I'm trying to develop. But intuition, as I'm developing ruchi, it's coming of its own accord, and I'm trying to discover it. But they're not the same. Just like Chaitya Guru and Super Soul are not the same. So Chaitya Guru is actually guiding us, trying to give instructions. He's that dictator. Super Soul, Updrashta Anumanta, just passive witness and sanctioner. Those are the two functions. Does not guide, does not dictate. So totally distinct. From a distance, you may, conceive of them as similar, but they're really not. That is explained. Anyway, thank you, Chinmay Prabhu, for bringing that up, some more clarity. And forgive my offenses. Give me a second. Let me see if I have any local troops available here.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha
Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra
Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Jaya Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath
Ichai Gosai Kori Charana Vandan.
Hey Chai Gosai Kori Charana Vandana
Jaha hoite Vignana Shabishta Puran.
Jaha hoite Vignana Abhishta Puran
Ichai Gosai Jar Mohita Radhas.
Hey Chai Gosai Jar Mohita Radhas
Tan Savara Padarenu Mora Panchagras.
Tasabara Padarenu Mora Panchagras
Tandera Charana Se Bhi Bhakta Sane Bas.
Andhra Charana Se Bhi Bhakta Sane Bas
Janame Mora Hai Abhilash.
Janame Janame Mora Hey Abhilash
Ichai Gosai Jabe Vraja Koila Bas.
Hey Chai Gosai Jabe Braje Koila Bas
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash.
Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaj Vrindavan
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majayaman.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas
Hari Nam Sankirtana Kohe Narottama Das.
Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narottama Das
Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol Nitai Gaura
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar.
Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar, Jai Gauranga Sundar.
Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad. Śrīla Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswamī Maharāj ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad. Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Dev-Goswamī Maharāj ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Vishwarenya Śrīla. Jai Om Vishnupad Vishwarenya Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Bhagavan Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Śrīla Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Śrīla Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Saparshad Nityananda Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Saparshad Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Jai.
Our divine panelist Sripad Arun Krishna Prabhu ki jai. Our divine panelist Sripad Chinmoy Dev Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Divine guest Sripad Rupanuga Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Our divine guest Shri Anil ji ki jai.
Jai.
Divine guest Nandarani Didi ki jai.
Jai.
From Facebook Sripad Madhav Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Sripad Deepta Krishna Das Prabhu ki jai. And everyone else who we cannot see, sab ki jai.
Jai.
Nittai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Shri Jayaram Prabhu ki jai. Abha Didi ki jai. Kirtan Prabhu, Lamanika Didi ki jai. Nav Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna.